And we're live. Hello, everyone. Hello, my dear.
Hello, hello. Happy Monday. How are you?
I am good. I am good. All right.
We're chuckling because I think that doing a live podcast is a test for our nervous system,
It is. It's more a test for your nervous system.
right? Right. It's so funny. Well, we were supposed to have a special guest tonight, and she had a pet death, so she's going to reschedule. So let's start from the beginning. Let's pick it up. Welcome, everyone, to the Beyond Nutrition Community Podcast. This is a space for slowing down, tuning in, and rebuilding your health from the inside out. We're your host. I'm Sherry,
And I'm Coach Becky.
two women who have been where you are. We've been overwhelmed. We have been exhausted. We have disconnected from our own bodies. We've lived it. And then we've moved through it and we've rewritten our stories. But I'll tell you, it's not been with quick fixes, right? Or pushing uh, harder, right? Not any of that, but with slow, steady healing and a return to what's real. So we're here to walk with you as you learn to trust your body, honor nature's rhythms, and create sustainable health in every part of your life. This is just a place for honest conversations, gentle support, and a community that reminds you that this is a place for uh, just real life living it in real time. That's why we're live, right? But you're not doing this alone. So if you're craving the calm and clarity and a deeper connection to yourself, you have found your people and you're in the right place. Except tonight, we had a little stressful situation. So we literally pivoted in 4 minutes' time and retitled the podcast to Coaches Speak. And we're just going to talk tonight.
We are here for accountability, support, and any questions that you may have. So I see we have several people watching on the various platforms. Thank you to all of the platforms that we did get switched over tonight. And also thank you to all of those that download and stream our podcasts on Tuesdays and every day they're following. We appreciate all of you and your support. So definitely, if you have the questions, put them into the chat. And we will go through. But yeah, we always talk about nervous system and how to balance that, especially in the evening time, right? And
Mm,
we got the last minute message that our guest had to cancel, and it was like, well, we'll just end up, rescheduling. And normally I'm the one that is, on the dime of, well, let's pivot, let's go. And yeah, tonight I'm like, we'll just reschedule. And what were your words? No, let's just change the title and go. So way to
I
be
know that's so not
spontaneous.
me. It is so not me. I have show notes, you guys, for every single podcast we do. Like, and we go off script. Like it's not scripted, right? None of it
It's
is,
live.
but it gives me ideas, and but then those go by the wayside too. It's just I can't help myself, right? It's so funny, and I'm like, hey, let's just wing it tonight.
But I think that has to do a lot with even our daily lives. And I think that's
Hmm.
why a lot of people or a lot of clients that we speak to struggle, right? Because they're seeking this, not that your show notes are, perfection. And like you said, we don't always go scripted.
No,
It's more of like
yeah,
bullet points of things to
yeah,
talk about, right? And life throws you, curveballs, right? Life makes throws you lemons and you have to make lemonade. But it's kind of one of those things where if you stress about it, if you worry about it, if you overanalyze it, if whatever the case may be, right, you're constantly just going to end up and be spinning and sitting in this spiral. And whether that's social pressure, daily pressure, financial pressure, whatever that may be, it's going to end up and wreck your nervous system. So it is a case of, learning to kind of be able to not always just, wing it, but regulate that nervous system and kind of go with the flow of chaos, right?
Yeah.
So it definitely makes a difference. And when we look at those triggers and what
Hmm.
happens in those moments, and, not only how we respond to them, but it's also a case of, how do we respond towards, others and other situations and stuff. So being able to just kind of pick up and, I don't want to say ignore it, because obviously, we're not ignoring tonight, right? We
Right.
we pivoted.
We did.
So
We did. And the question is, and our audience can probably relate, right? Did we feel stressed? Were we uh, frustration? Was it panic? I'll be honest, not really. At least not on my end. I know you didn't either. Um, but what we didn't do was throw in the towel and go, man, let's just skip tonight, right?
mhm.
Um, but this is life.
Yeah. And that's where showing up and being real, being honest about it, right? Um, whether, and again, translating that to a person's journey, right? We've both been on a journey, but what happens if you don't show up for yourself in your journey, right? You're not going to get better. And is tonight going to be, perfect podcast? Is it going to end up and be, exactly what we planned? No, but neither is your journey, right? And but if you don't show up for yourself, maybe that's tracking, maybe that's meal prepping, maybe that's, just simply seeing your circadian rhythm, right?
Yeah,
Whatever that application or modality is for you, if you don't show up, nothing's going to change.
absolutely. Well, and the thing is, people have to understand is when you have to pivot, like we did it in 4 minutes, literally. Um, your body perceives a threat, and the brain really does love prediction, right? Predictability. Uh, that last minute change can and put in the chat, you guys, if you can relate to that last minute change that causes the fight or the flight or the freeze, right? You're pushing harder, controlling everything. That's usually me. Avoid or procrastinate or shut down and indecision. Even positive pivots can actually feel stressful, believe it or not, right? So your reaction isn't weakness, it's your nervous system trying to protect you. So, what are your thoughts on that, Becky?
Yeah, it's definitely the cortisol and the nervous system, like you said. It's those sudden changes spike hormones, right? Spike that cortisol, which for anyone that is, looking at weight loss specifically, right? It
Hmm.
can blunt that fat burning. It Yes, it will disrupt sleep a lot of times, and the body's mechanism, if you will, is especially in postmenopausal, perimenopausal type people, or anyone with a history of even restriction, that is going to end up and trigger weight loss resistance. So you're going to end up in struggle, and this is where I've had clients before that will ask about things, and I do talk about the nervous system side, but a lot of times I even go into, well, what is your evening routine, right? What are you doing to prepare for sleep? Because a lot of times when your body is in this, stressed out state all day long, this whole, heightened cortisol, or gets a secondary cortisol response because of your, fast paced evening routine of, I've got to get everything done before going to bed. And, it just kind of creates this misalignment. And that's where even just having, some breath work or legs up the wall in the evening, maybe it's an Epsom salt bath, but really looking at your day as a whole and how you can create that flexibility that you're looking for, and also work on the nervous system. Because even just taking simple, breaths through the day, you and I talk about this a lot,
Oh, yeah.
because I work in, from home, but you work outside of the house.
Yeah.
And how can you regulate, right? A nervous system when you have to go into like the office, or you have to go, in public, right? And there's things even like sitting down and doing breath work,
Yeah.
or going outside and doing grounding in the middle of the day. a lot of people are like, well, I want to take my, dress shoes off in public, right? Your hands are able to end up and do grounding too. And so there's just small things like this that you can put into your day that really stack that core and are able to build that up to regulate your body. And
Yep.
that's, I think, the biggest thing for a lot of people is that regulation, because bringing themselves back to center, bringing themselves back to the present moment, makes a lot of difference in a personal lens, but also even in a professional lens, if you will. Being able to handle the stress of work a little bit better. Maybe it's work, maybe it's kids, getting short with your kids, or whatever the case may be. So
I chuckled when you first talking about breathing. I believe you told me to do that today when I was driving. So just a
a
little
few times.
a few times. I went and got my blood work today, and so I had an incident happen a couple years ago where I was driving in this big city. I think it's like the second or third largest city in Texas. Um, I don't know, 5 lanes of traffic, semi on one side, semi on the other side, no room in front of me, and a big truck behind me. And this semi on the right hand side was coming into my lane. I had nowhere to go. And that did a number on me. And I literally almost go into a fight or flight moment when I have to pass a semi when I drive because of that. And I'll tell you what happened, right? I don't know. I don't know how the semi got from the right side coming into my car to in front of me. I don't know how that happened. I know I didn't slam on the brakes because we were running like 70 miles an hour. So, so now when I pass semis, I perceive that they are coming over into my lane. And yeah, it causes a little bit of panic. And we're talking, and I'm like, I'm coming up on the semi right now. And she's like, breathe.
Well, you're like, there's a semi, there's a semi, there's a semi. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
just breathe.
breathe. Yeah,
You'll be okay. You'll
yeah.
get around it. Just breathe.
And then I'd be like, I'm around it.
But
uh,
that's the other thing, right? Because if we weren't, if I wasn't on the car speaker, right,
mhm,
then you were by yourself, right?
mhm,
And so every time that tension, right, and
mhm,
you just get more tense because there's not that ability, and that's where even some people with flying have anxiety of
mhm.
flying. And I've even walked them through, waiting in the airport, and different things that they can use, techniques that they can use, to help with that anxiety, or the confinements of a plane. And so yeah, it's definitely a real life scenario.
And the thing was, is I really was breathing. I was using the breathing techniques as I was driving, and I caught myself a couple times with the tense, shoulders and everything. And it was like, breathe. I relaxed my shoulders, and I mean, I did it, but you know what? This is real life, right? I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And so, but I knew immediately without, yeah, you were telling me to breathe, but I was also breathing, right? I was doing some breath work as I was driving. Because we've been working, you and I, separate together with our clients. We all work on our nervous system. So, it's
Mhm.
when you're in that state of, oh my goodness, what's happening right now? What steps do you have at your fingertips that you can help regulate your nervous system? And that was a good example.
Yeah, it is. It's basically, how can you hijack that
Yeah,
thinking, right? When the nervous
yeah.
system goes on this such heightened alert.
Hmm.
And it's kind of the same thing with people that have OCD tendencies, right? or health anxiety history, right?
Mhm.
Because people can get OCD about their health even. And it feels, like this mind's been hijacked, and you start with racing thoughts or the body tension, and you just kind of start to loop, right? The
Mhm.
what if I am, what if I am this, what if I am that, what if the semi comes over, what if I
Mhm.
can't and
Mhm.
so it just kind of sets this whole spiral, and it does affect your eating, it affects your sleep, it affects your metabolic signals. It just, there's so many things, but that's where, we work with our clients in regards of all of the somatic tools, right? We talk about the
Mhm.
breath work, but
Yep.
it's also, the Ho'oponopono and just the simple, powerful practices that bring you back into that safety. And,
Mhm.
you know, when we create that safety, whether it's just the size, right? The double inhale, hold, or the box breathing.
Mhm.
Um, and then, kind of sigh, or the 5 4 3 2 1 method, right? You've talked about that a lot with clients
Mhm.
of, even being outside or being in the office, and, identifying things that they see, things that they can touch, things they hear in the space, because a lot of people do get, very anxious. Um, I work with people even in regards of body scanning in addition to breath work. It's two things that you can end up and do. And trust me, if the brain is trying to figure out how to count on breath work as it's trying to also relax the body, you're not going to end up and, be tensing up and spiraling, right? The brain
Right.
isn't going to end up and go, because it's going to try focusing on the counting or focusing on, the fact that it is safe now.
Mhm.
But to answer the question, what is the Ho'oponopono practice? It is the I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I have a blue glass water bottle that actually has that on it. That I set my water in the sunlight and all of that. So um, I I end up and I drink that. But people can use it in regards of their health. People can use it in regards of maybe even past trauma. I used to specifically when I was kind of coming through my healing journey of, did I always make the right choices? No, and so not suppressing that, but diving in and digging deep as to the why. I mean, we talked. Was that just last week? 2 weeks ago? Last week that we talked to Coach Sly,
Mhm.
and we were discussing the why and the 7 layers deep.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that the wellness angle, what it teaches us is healing isn't about avoiding stress. We're all human, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all living this life. And so avoiding stress is just not possible. But how fast can you return to regulation and how can you build that resilience? And so wellness isn't about this perfectly calm, zen life. It's a system on how to know how to come back to that calm. And I knew that when I was driving this morning. The other thing I had was, I don't know, poor Becky, when I drive and we talk, I always have the window cracked because I'm getting natural light as I'm driving. And that's, what does that do? Let's talk about even just what that does to the body.
The fact that because of what time you were driving, the
Hmm.
UVA.
Yep.
So, when we discuss the UVA light and its benefits, there's so many benefits, let alone the fact of, um, so there's sunrise, right? When the sun is between 0 and 10 degrees, but there's also the benefits of the UVA, and that's when the sun is between 10 and 30 degrees. And so it does have benefits with the nervous system, the HPA
Hmm.
axis. And so as the body, again, going back to that health OCD or anxiety, natural light exposure helps with regulating that, because when you are able HPA access, and when you are able to regulate that with the light exposure, that is specific during that time frame. So as the sun comes up over the horizon, as it breaks or crests the horizon, it is primarily red and infrared light. As it kind of comes up to, solar noon, if you will, or the brightest time of the day, then it starts to be a little bit more on the balanced spectrum, full spectrum, but also a little bit less of the red and more, blue light. And so when it's kind of at this, UVA, it does provide the benefit of nitric oxide release. And that also triggers the nitric oxide helps with the skin. It helps with blood flow. It helps with, a lot of people will end up and supplement with nitric oxide because it helps with blood pressure. It helps with, all sorts of circulation, oxygen delivery, but it does truly end up and help the body and prepping the skin even for the vitamin D pathway support. So, even if like just the crack of the window, that light is still getting in and it's bouncing around, right? If you have the window up, then typical windows are going to kind of filter some of that out and not allow all of that through that is able, to get in through an open window or open sunroof. But it does help also mastering your circadian clock, sunrise and UVA. UVA is more for the serotonin and dopamine. So it boosts the mood via the serotonin, but it also helps regulate cortisol. It improves the melatonin timing at night of UVA or sunrise and UVA. And it, like I said, it does end up and help the dopamine side of things too. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits even when it comes to the mental health side of getting that time frame, right? Even if someone can just get a light break, right? Back in the day, we always talked about people taking, cigarette breaks. Take a light break, right? Go outside, touch the shrubbery around your office, or, just simply get outside and get the naked eye, right? If you have glasses, take the glasses off, but just sit there, really soak that in. If you have 10 minutes, great. Even on cloudy days, just simply getting out there. I, get to my doorway because, like I said, I work from home. And I'll open the door, and stand in the doorway for a few minutes or, whatever the case may be. So really the body is designed to run on these natural rhythms, but many people are misaligning them. They're either under blue light in an office, they're not wearing blue blockers. I have my natural light of my window right now, but I also have a salt lamp in my office. So, these are all natural wavelengths of light for this time of the day.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing you can do is, humanize it. Share it. Be honest, right? What did you feel internally? How you grounded yourself? What helped you show up anyway? This is where people learn from you. Like, I remember years ago, what Becky does for her other job. It's like, how do you handle the stress of, you know, the noise in the background and the chaos that was ensuing all the time? And I remember me asking you that, like, how do you stay and not go up with that level of chaos?
Well, you even asked me that this morning of how do I not let other things influence my
Hmm.
nervous system.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yes,
it's
I did. That's
really
right.
it's
Yeah.
really yeah,
Yeah.
remember that
That
conversation?
that conversation. Yeah.
It's really about putting allowing yourself that time, allowing yourself and knowing that worth, right? Again, it goes to the self-worth, because a lot of times when we don't put ourselves first, when we don't put ourselves at the forefront, that's where we do end up and take a lot of those emotions or that stress, and we kind of wear it on our sleeve, right? Where if we're able to know our techniques, we're able to know our practices, we know, how to kind of ground and center ourselves, again, bringing it back, right? This isn't easy work. This is things that, have been put into place. And I would say it's one of the biggest things that I've changed over the last year and a half that has made a tremendous difference is being able to put in some of these practices, right? And it's not always about the affirmations. It's not always about, the journaling and those type of things, but it's how you go about living
Mm-hmm.
it so that it is sustainable,
Yeah.
right? If I ended up and told everyone that every time you end up and you have a stressful situation, I want you to sit and meditate, for 20 to 30 minutes, what
Right.
is the likelihood of that, right? It's where do you let your mind wander and where do you let it perceive as reality, right? Whether that's in a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's in work and, the chaos,
Mm-hmm.
what is the reality, right? What what do you have control of? Because there's a lot of times things end up and happen that are out
Mm-hmm.
of our control.
Right.
And if you can't adjust it, you can't change it, then, why are we worrying about it, right?
Exactly. And so, just a couple tips for folks, because they're probably listening, going, "Yeah, this all sounds wonderful. So, give me some tips." So, we gave you one, right? The box breathing. You inhale for a count of 4, slow. You exhale through the nose through the count of 4, slow. Inhale. Oh, hold. I forgot one. Inhale 4, hold your breath for 4, and then exhale for 4. I knew I was forgetting something. But yeah, um, that works. What else can we give you? Did you know a temperature shift can help? And I've done that. I know you've done that, Becky, where
Yeah.
you can splash some cold water on your face, hold an ice cube, put something cold on the back of your neck, even step outside. Of course, if I step outside, like the temperature would go up in the 90s right out here, because good old the South that I live in, we're running. What was it this week? Father's Day. Yeah, you sent pictures, and I'm like, why are people wearing sweatshirts?
It was 68 degrees and chilly here. You're like, it's
Like
90 here.
90 here. Yeah. But that temperature change will help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is it interrupts that stress loop and then it kind of brings you back to your body. The other one that I like that I've actually used on clients is the orienting exercise. What does that mean? Look around and name uh, 5 things that you see. Doesn't matter. We don't care what it is. Just look. Oh, I see a chair. Oh, I see the floor. Oh, I see the laptop. 3 things you can hear and 1 thing you can feel physically. And that also brings you out of that anxiety and into the present moment. And it was funny. My husband and I are watching a TV show, and literally last night, this bad character dude was having anxiety, and the therapist is like, name five blue or 3 blue things or something in the room, and he's like, the wall, your robe. And it was funny, and I was like, aha, see, they're even doing it on a TV show. What else can we give them?
I mean, even short somatic practices, like humming, singing, allowing that energy to get out, right? Maybe it's just moving the body,
Yeah.
putting on some music and just moving. You'd be
Hmm.
surprised how much that ends up and even helps with release.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tapping. I know you do that
Hmm.
personally.
Yeah,
You and I and Coach Sly, we all have our touch points.
I know.
Um,
I was
were
just
you just
looking for
looking
mine.
for them? There they are. Yeah. So
Yeah.
explain to everyone what those are. Now, you don't have to go buy stuff. This is just something that, and I do use it.
So obviously I have the bands off mine because I like to just be able to hold them. I'll sit in front of, my red light or whatever. I also, when I do wear socks, I'll stick them like in my socks. but these do alternate vibrations. So, they, like I said, they have bands. Slidewires are bands. I actually have a picture of me, wearing mine with my bands and just sitting there. But it does help with that vibration therapy, alternating therapy.
Yeah, it's I have a really good friend of mine, and we were having a girls' weekend, and she's suffering from seizures, and she has a hard time like relaxing. And she went in to take a nap when we were all hanging out, and I walked into the bedroom, and I'm like, here. Here are my touch points. I want you to hold one in each hand. I started them up for her. I don't even know if she lasted 2 minutes. She ended up buying them. She uses them regularly to help her parasympathetic, right? Get into that relaxed mode. It does work. I think I was talking to Fly one day, and she was having a stressful day at work, and I'm like, where are your touch points, right? And she's like, oh, haha, she forgot about them. So they're a neat little tool. If that's the route you want to go, but you can do tapping, right?
Yep.
Shake it out.
I think I'm freezing, but
Yeah.
there we look like we're live. Yeah. Yeah, shake it out. We're freezing. Well, welcome to the live podcast, guys. But tapping, I mean, there's so many different, even like just sitting here, the back of your hand, you can sit there and, tap. And that's one of the techniques. The collarbone is another, being able to, find your collarbone and sit there and, tap the brain. There's so many different points over the body to be able to utilize that tapping.
It sounds simple, but it's actually releasing stress that's stored up in your body. Mental reframing is another one. Um, Instead of going, why is this always happening? Why has this happened to me? Right? What is this asking from me right now? So it shifts your mindset from victim to empowered. I have just done, and I'm going to try and get her on our podcast. I went through a 6-week meditation, and one of the weeks that we were on was stop. Is this how I want to feel right now? Like, and so that whole week I put that into practice. Well, that's still something that I do today, is reframing that, and so that helps as well. You got any other
I'm
tips?
freezing.
Oh,
I was just saying,
a long pause.
I'm freezing. Yeah, it's delayed and freezing on my end. So if you get these mysteriously long pauses, that's why. I mean, the whole reframing, like you said, is just moving from, that perfection to progress, not feeling like everything has to end up and be perfect. Your metabolism isn't broken, your life isn't broken, right? When it throws you curveballs, it's just doing its job. Slow down, hold on, release the energy, and going from I failed, or this is ruined, it's never going to end up in work, to this is data, right? Maybe old patterns are slipping in of not getting your morning sunrise, or maybe you've been eating off whatever your plan is, or you skipped workouts, or you maybe didn't get the workouts in. There's all this kinds of different things that you can end up and put in there, and that's where you have to reframe it, right? This information, your body is giving you signals. What does it end up in need right now, and what is working? That doesn't mean that it's what you have to do forever, right? We've both evolved, we've changed, right? There is no set one way. And so even if something is working really well and then stops, don't be afraid to, adjust and pivot, right? There's no shame, there's no guilt. It's just identifying and rewiring. That is the biggest thing.
Yeah, and not everything has to be perfect or fully polished. That's me, right? Like I want it to, the podcast. Like we had a guest on supposed to be on tonight, and we pivoted in 4 minutes, and here we are. So the fully polished part of me went out the door, right? So normally this would have thrown me, or in the past it would have thrown me. I lowered the bar. Not saying that this is a bad podcast. I'm saying I lowered the expectations of this didn't have to be perfect tonight, right? This is good enough. In fact, this is just in time because the audience is listening, and I know there are people out there that are identifying with this.
Absolutely, because this is where it really happens, right? This is the conversation that a lot of people or a lot of influencers don't allow you to see, right? They
Yeah.
don't allow you to see the hard work that has to go into it or the mental health side of things that have to go in. Mental health has always been a taboo topic, right?
Hmm.
People that end up in struggle or people that have anxiety, people that have, um, struggle just with their journey. Maybe it's not, mentally struggle, but it's a struggle, right? And they tend to end up and push people harder, where maybe that's, getting them into a gym harder, or getting them, to do more fasting, or getting them to be more restrictive, or, whatever the case may be, right? Inside each and every one of you is the tools naturally to end up and heal. The body knows. We just have to sometimes simplify that down and empower ourselves to be able to be in that right mindset. I mean, I was in a meeting earlier today, and a gal was speaking in regards of weight loss. She has, a few pounds where she wants to end up and lose, right? And she was talking about slowly, weighing herself, and that was kind of defining the way she was phrasing it, was kind of defining her journey. But yet there were so many things that went right that sometimes we don't see those
Hmm.
because we're so honed in on one side. And so sometimes we just have to have kind of this expansion lens, right? Opening that lens up and giving yourself grace, but also understanding the bigger picture. I mean, we've zoomed out of our pictures, even because
Yeah.
we too, right, like I said,
Hmm.
we're not perfect, and we're not chasing perfection, right? um but it's one of those cases where sometimes people just have to zoom out and not expect things overnight and just trust it.
Definitely. And I'm going to say something too that probably will get some boos. Boo, Sherry. Protect your energy input. What do you mean? Reduce that social media, right? Like, reduce it down. It's noise. Um, Reduce the noise. Turn the TV off. Say no to those extra commitments because your nervous system can only process so much change at once. And when you are throwing all kinds of things at it, it becomes overload, energy overload, right? And I think social media is one of the worst. One of the best things was, um, me not on some of the social media platforms anymore, and it was hard. And now I like it.
Yeah, it's just, again, we, right, not
Hmm.
you, we, as humans are naturally inclined to compare.
Hmm.
And 99% of social media, we see the good parts of people's journeys.
Hmm.
And that's where, a lot of people end up at struggle because they're like, oh, it's so easy, right? We're in a quick fix world right now, where
Yeah.
there are so many, quick fixes out there, right? That so many people are tempted by. But yet, is that a long-term sustainable, when you don't fix your foundations? the foundations have to end up and come first.
Yeah, definitely. Um, borrow some regulation from someone else. What do I mean? Talk to somebody who's calm and grounded. Becky was that for me while I was driving today. Um, going past the semi and she's going, breathe. But she was calm, and it wasn't as bad as I perceived, right? Or sit near someone that's supportive, because the nervous systems actually sync. It's biology. It's not just a mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a case where you kind of sometimes have to get out of your own head,
Yeah,
right? And that's where group support, whether it's the BNC community, whether it's one-on-one coaching, um, just really having that ability to check in. Like my, coaching clients have the ability to send me a text message, right? They end up and they check in. We have a challenge going right now
hmm
where, we're only 22 days into it. It's 66-day challenge and we're 22 days in. So we're what, a third of the way?
hmm
Um, but, so there's still time to even join that. But being able just to kind of have that community, have that support, be the voices of reason for you to bounce people off, right? Be able to have other people that are, no two paths are the same, but when you end up and are able to just talk about it.
Absolutely. So, what happens after you're done? You pivoted. You're kind of on the other side. Well, did you know recovery matters? What do you mean? Well, you complete that stress cycle. Move your body, walk, stretch, breathe deeply, reflect. You don't have to just move on. You can reflect, because if I go back and reflect on this morning when I was driving past the semis and gripping the steering wheel tight, um, it was progress, right? I didn't, because there was a time where I would slow down and we'd be going really slow and I'm behind the semi because I'm too afraid to pass it, right? So there was progress there. And so what that does is it prevents that stored stress buildup. Um, you can just let it go at that point. And guess what? You can celebrate. Don't forget, that was a small win. It might have not been perfect, but it was still a win.
Small wins lead to big successes. So
Yes,
even
it.
in, a health journey, those small wins, those small consistent wins, again, like I said, zoom out of the picture, right? When you're sitting in and you're like, oh, it's this, but you zoom out, right? Those small wins have led to this big win, right? This big success that has completely transformed the person that you are and how you perceive that stress.
Absolutely. It was funny because here of late, I've been a little frustrated at the slow progress that I'm making physically. And it came just in time. My husband looked at me was it last weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Week, yeah, and said he had ran across some pictures. Gosh, 10 years ago, um, and that was at my highest weight of about 300 pounds. And he said, I didn't realize what I look like. But oh my goodness, you have changed so much physically. Um, and I had moved the lens in so tight of, well, I've been at this new set of macros and new workouts and new this for the past, 2 months. And I'm looking at 2 months through this lens and not looking at the big picture, right? So it was kind of a nice reminder, but we all do it.
Yep. And like I said, that's where when we talk about the day to day, we go through, we see the same person in the mirror staring back at us. We see, the same version of ourselves. So that's why, we tend to end up and encourage people to take their measurements, take their pictures, side by
Mm-hmm.
side, because when you're so zoomed into that day to day, you don't see those changes happening. You
Right.
see the scale only barely moving, right? Or you
Mm-hmm.
feel as though clothes are fitting the same. Um, you know, energy, yeah, day to day, some days it's better, some days it's not, and that's where you get into that mindset where it feels like nothing is working. And when you are able to kind of, like I said, zoom, right, look below the surface and what your body is rebuilding at that cellular, you know, side of things, right? The hormone side of things, the sensitivity, the nervous system, the gut. The gut is big on, and a
Oh,
lot of people don't end up and give enough emphasis on the gut and how it does help your journey of healing. And, same thing with inflammation, right? Grounding helps tremendously. It's free. It brings that inflammation down. Some people just look at lab work and look at their HSCRP in order to gauge their improvements, right? But all of this also is so foundational in the repairs that it doesn't show on a scale and it doesn't show in the mirror right away. But there are conditions that are visible, right? There are changes. And so that's where, as people are zoomed in, they don't always see it, right? And so being able to kind of amplify that daily zooming and look
mm-hmm.
at a bigger amplified overall version of perception, it it looks a lot different. Even if you can go back 4 weeks, right, do pictures every month, right? I do my
Uh-huh.
photos and my measurements once a month. It's the first Wednesday of every month. I weigh with my scale, because my scale is one that is the Hume scale. So it does the lean body mass, it does, the fat mass, it does all of that. And I've used the same metric, right? So it's maybe not the gold standard of like a DEXA scan or a bod pod or an InBody or, any of those. But the Hume body pod scaled, it does end up and track the trend. And that's one of the things I've, used as I've lost this 65 pounds in the last year and a half. So, it does end up and make a difference when you're looking at your overall picture. But if you're just looking, day to day, you don't necessarily see it.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Well, any questions out there that people have put in the chat?
I don't see any on my end. Everyone is kind of quiet tonight.
Yeah. we snuck it in. We
We
pivoted,
did.
and they, yeah. So we're gonna have Kalik on. She's gonna reschedule. And let's see, what do we got coming up next week? I don't even remember right now. I'll have to look at what our next. It was a good one. It was a good one. Hold on.
Just say I
Hold
don't
on.
remember
I'll let
next
you
week,
know.
and then July 6th is the next roundtable.
It is. It is. All right. Let's see. I'm pulling it up. See, again, this is like on live here. Um. Oh yes. So next week, um, we're going to talk about a kind of a touchy subject. Why healing makes you lose people, and in
Very
fact,
true.
we may circle back and have a coaches roundtable on it as well. I know Coach Sly wanted to be a part of that, so I may uh, pull that title into our next one as well, so you can get three perspectives. But that's what we're going to talk about next week, is why healing makes you lose people. So hopefully you'll be able to tune in. So any last words, Becky?
Well, you never know. They may end up and surprise us and jump on sporadically and join us even early. Maybe they'll
Uh,
join us next week. You never know. So make sure you end up and you tune in.
yep.
We go live every Monday night. And then if you are listening to us on a streaming only platform, it does get put out on Tuesdays early morning. So make sure you end up and check us out on those streaming platforms.
Well, listen, thanks for being a part of this conversation tonight. We hope it helped you out, that kind of help you navigate through the tough moments or give you a new perspective. So make sure you follow us, leave a review, comment, like, subscribe, share it with someone that you think may need it. Your support helps us continue having these real, meaningful conversations. And, you know, we do read all of your comments and stuff, and it truly does make a difference. And if you have an idea for future podcasts, let us know as well.
Absolutely. Drop it in the chat or put it in the comments of the videos. Have a great night, everyone, and we will see you next